Welcome to the Aftercast, all the stuff we did not get to during the course of the show today. Betty Rock is out today, and we have some potties in that are joining us, Michael and his family. So Michael's actually sitting in her chair. He'll fill in for her today. So you have to take your IQ down a smidge. And
I can manage this. I can be kind of snarky.
Yeah, I can hate you as much as she does. All right, so let's get into some stuff here. I had talked about on the show reading an email. If you listen to the show, you already heard this. I was like, hey, if you want to hear the response, it's not a long response, but it's just, I think it's worth talking about. So we had been making fun of the difference between Android users and iPhone users. I mean, it's just a silly, nonsensical argument that people have had since the invention of both of those phones.
And generally, it's a comedic argument, not a.
And it was
not a. There's no genuine hate.
Well,
Betty's is probably as close as it gets.
Betty hated you for a while.
I know.
It's actually why I'm glad Betty's not here, because she has genuinely hurt my soul, me being an Android user.
I know.
So.
See, that's the thing. Yeah, you are an Android user, and we don't judge. Betty would, and so Gavin, Betty made him change his phone way early.
Actually, though, I don't think I genuinely had a plan
to
switch from a Google Pixel to an Apple, just because they didn't have, didn't want to add that to my bill every month or, buy it outright. But eventually I couldn't.
Well, it was when it got to where it was actually like impeding doing work. That was my problem with it. Like, I didn't care if you had the phone, but then it's like, oh, Gavin, shoot this, and then you'd send us the video to edit, and it'd be this tiny, grainy, garbage video. Yet, I guess if you would send it to another Android user, it would have looked great, right?
Yeah, I believe that's generally the case.
Do you want the technical explanation? Because I actually do know some of that.
Okay, we'll make it like as least techie as possible.
Okay. It would be like if you had all DeWalt stuff and DeWalt did not let you use a Diablo blade, and you had to use a Diablo blade.
I like that you made it woodworking. I said make it like
I can do woodworking.
Yeah. Gavin's eyes rolled back in his head.
I sat there and I'm like, DeWalt.
Like I got that. I said make it easy for people to understand. He made it easy for woodworkers to understand.
I'm talking to Wally, and then I'm looking at you, so I'm going to talk to you.
Yeah, I got that.
I have the gift of analogy. This is what I do.
Yeah.
So it would be like if the Diablo blade would work just as well, but anytime you put it on the DeWalt, it's going to automatically dull the blade, and that's a DeWalt decision to dull the blade of the Diablo. So essentially, what happens is Apple makes it so nice to be device to device, that they also kind of blacklisted devices that weren't theirs. So his video was great quality, but the way that Apple would translate it into iMessage, it actually degrades the quality into software.
Right, because then they want you to switch over, which was what happened with us.
It's their choice. Like, it's truly their choice to create that difference between each other.
Right, but again, it's also what keeps you, if you want to interact with other people, it forces you to their product, which is kind of genius in a way.
It's evil genius, but the great thing about it is it's like you could go into your Apple device and make it so you could accept those, but why would you?
Right. Well, you couldn't do it initially, though.
Right.
Like that, there was no way. It would just, here's your cruddy video. Thank you, Gavin. We just lost the video we wanted to shoot. But if we had been Android, it would have been fine. Like, it would have looked great back and forth between those. But none of us here had Android phones.
Well, none of you contacted me and asked how to share files either. So that's really
Can you share the file? Because you're like a tech guy.
You can share it a different way,
Okay, you just can't email, or you just can't text it to each other.
Yeah, like Google Photos. That works very well.
Yeah.
Upload, download. Yeah, that would have worked great.
You know what worked better is you just get an iPhone.
Yeah.
That's what worked a lot better. But anyway, so we go through that whole conversation, and I don't think anything of it. But I'm always amazed at what hits people and how. And so I got this email from this guy, Thomas, said, I'm very disappointed with your unchristian rant about Android users. At this point, I think he's kidding. Because people will do that all the time. They'll email me things with the subject line or the first sentence to be inflammatory. And then as I read through it, it gets more and more to be a farce. And then at the end, they're like, I got you. And yeah, you did. My blood pressure was up right from the first sentence. So I'm like, okay, he's got to be kidding. And then I go on to read. This morning on your show, this is not something I wish for me, my family, or my kids. Okay, so this is the way the anatomy of a hate mail, okay, is how it really runs. Disappointment, unchristian, not good for me, not good for family, and I'm going to throw the kids in there too. You got to do that, because what happens is in Christian radio, bosses read emails and freak out. And they're like, we can't have anyone ever unhappy with us. We're going to lose donors. And so they lose their minds. And then they're like, what did you do? And they come and yell at you. And you're like, it's not a big deal. Go listen to the tape. So fortunately, our people, I've been here long enough that they've stopped doing that. They understand. There are people that are just not going to like you, some days, or not like something you do. And so my bosses are great. They don't come and beat down my door and get into my show and be like, we've got to change because Thomas isn't happy, So they'll just write them a nice email back and explain. They will listen to the audio, which I think is fair. Like if somebody complains, listen to it, make your own decision. If you think I was out of bounds, you go, hey, he was out of bounds. We're going to talk to him. We appreciate your heads up. I mean, that's happened before. And there's times when I've admitted I've been out of bounds. I've had to apologize to people before. I've gone back. Someone challenged me on something. I've gone back and listened to it and went, you know what? You're right. I was out of bounds. I was either too harsh, too caustic, or wrong. Yeah, that one hardly happens. But or was super opinionated, and I see where it's offensive or whatever. So this one keeps going. I would just like you to know that you've lost another listener. Sincerely, Thomas. So that's always the final straw. It always jumps to the punitive phase. The punishment is, you don't meet my expectations. I am no longer listening to you, and I'm letting you know that. And the subtext is I'm pulling my support. Some people go out and say that. But the thing about this is when people get to that point, like I've never written a company to say I'm not using your product anymore. I just don't use the product anymore. So
makes sense.
The upside of this is there is at least some sort of passion behind it. They're like, I'm so upset. I have to tell you why I'm not listening anymore. And that's actually not bad. Like I look at that and I go, at least you care. You so care. Because I know they're going to keep listening. Like 9 times out of 10, the people that say they're never listening again, they're still listening. Sometimes they're listening because they want to be offended and hear you say more. And other times they calm down and realize, all right, maybe I overreacted a little bit there.
Yeah. How many of y'all still don't shop at Target after you went nuts about that thing? Like,
oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been still drinking my Dunkin', and they have hosed me so many times.
You're 10 bad drinks deep right now.
I am.
Right back up to bad.
Dunkin' makes me so mad. Okay, anyway. But I've never written their company and said, hey, I'm not going to drink your product anymore.
Well, they're not Panda Express.
No, Panda Express. They committed a crime and abducted me in that drive-thru. Okay, so here is my response. My response was very short.
Oh, we haven't gotten it.
No, I haven't gotten my response. Now, in the past, I will say this. In the past, I have lost my Jesus and not responded well to people. And I've been very, I've met them at the same level of animosity, and that's not good. Like, that's not healthy.
I've been here for almost 5.5 years, and I would say that that's maybe 1 or 2 times that I've even seen that. So it's been, the change in the handling of that has been since I've been here.
Betty used to be in the office with me, and she'd hear me just giggling, and I'd be like typing something, and she'd hear me just laughing to myself. She's like, are you answering a hate mail? I'm like, yes. Because I used to take pride in just fighting back. But then I got really to the point where I'm like, you know what? That's not good for any of us. It's not good for my faith. It's not good for these people. Then I would dread looking at my email because I know it was going to be another 3-email fight throughout the day. And so I've taken a little bit different tact. That said, I haven't reread my email yet, and so I'm like, I don't think this was a bad response. I think it was honest, but let me read it and see if I have to recant anything I just said. I said, I'm sorry that you took that so hard. We were kidding around, but I get that not everyone will get what we do. I'm just glad you chose to leave. Oh, that's right. This is where I got snarky. I'm just glad you chose to leave over something that didn't really matter rather than some really big theological flaw on my part or something like that. Thanks for taking the time to let me know. If you ever change your mind, we'll still be here. So I got a little snarky there, but I hope I was trying to show that, this isn't the hill to die on. Now, like if I've come out and said, hey, I don't know that Jesus was actually the Son of God, get me all day long. Get me off this station. I should not be here. Like, come at me. and go to my bosses, like 100%. But because I don't like Android phones, like that's not the battle.
Well, and I think people often miss the difference between sharing experience and sharing opinion.
Right.
And you're sharing an experience. You
Yeah.
had negative experiences with Android phone to iPhone. That's an experience.
Yeah.
So it might drive an opinion, but you're sharing an experience.
Sure. But
I've always said people can disagree with an opinion, but they can't disagree with an experience.
Right. And that's what your faith is too.
Yes.
Like people get all wigged out about sharing their faith. And what do they say? Well, if you're sharing what your experience with Christ is, that's something they can't argue. Because they can argue, is Christ real? Like, was Jesus a real character? Okay, you could argue that point. Was Jesus the Christ, the Son of God? You could argue that point on both sides. And people still to this day argue that. But I met Jesus, my life was this, and I've changed this. They can't argue that, and so that's the big secret to sharing your faith with people. All right, so that's that. I said I would read that, so I want to make sure that we got that in today. A poll. 30% of people said that they would not have a problem. 30%, so almost a third of people said they would not have a problem buying a house that they knew that someone was murdered in.
Yeah.
That to me is
not a chance.
Yeah.
So murdered, not died.
Murdered, not died. Okay. Different. I used to think I wouldn't even buy a house where someone died until someone died in my house. And then I'm like, okay, there's nothing wrong with my house. So that's a big distinction. Murder, suicide, don't know. Like we've had a couple people unalived on my street, and I know people then bought the house. Realtors don't have to tell you. Like that's I would have thought at some point in time a realtor had to list that and say, hey, not for nothing. It comes with a pool, which we're really happy about, has hardwood floors, and there was a murder here. Mm-hmm. They don't have to disclose it.
No, you would think that maybe it might be something that could be fit into the bottom of the Zillow listing or something. But no, that is but it's tough too, because then you hear like through rumor, or you hear other stories. Mm-hmm. Whereas I feel like I'd be more okay with the upfront honesty of like, hey, somebody like broke it. It was a freak accident. That's crazy, right? I'm like, yeah, right. This is a good deal. I'll still buy this place. But I don't know how it would depend on how freak crazy the murder was.
I was just about to ask that. I was going to ask you, would it matter how?
I think any murder is bad.
Oh, 100%. Well, I don't want to be close to it.
Was it break-in? Was it domestic? Yeah. Was it does it matter how?
We have different criteria. Yeah, because domestic, you go, well, that's not going to happen to me.
Right.
Random, you're like, what is it about this house? Mm-hmm. And then you got people like that are afraid of ghosts. Like I'm not afraid of that. Like that. I say that. I'm not afraid of like, oh, someone died in your house. Okay, it's not a big deal. Like I don't like my father-in-law passed away in my house, and I don't feel his ghost Spirit? Anywhere in my house. He's in heaven, although my cat won't go in that room anymore. It's weird. Literally, she stayed out of that room.
When that stuff pops up.
Yeah.
I don't know what they said.
And that would just be her favorite room. A good 6 months, she would not go in that room. I would walk her in the room, and she would walk back out. And there's part of me that's like, wait a minute, Jim? But I'm like, I know it's not true.
As long as you don't see her going in and like staring at like the blank wall.
She does. She did. She would go in and stare. Like she would just sit there and stare. It was the weirdest thing.
I don't love that.
I know. Like, yeah.
Bring Jasper over and see if he just starts barking at the room.
Oh man, that's the thing that Ellie and Jasper will do every once in a while is that we'll just be sitting there, and I live in a pretty janky old house that is a great deal, and I love it to death, but it is old and is not incredibly well taken care of. And so I'm pretty sure there are like squirrels and things living in the attic.
That's what you tell yourself every time you hear a bump.
Because every time like we'll just be standing there, and I'll just see Ellie and Jasper like looking up and following something. I'm like, stop that.
Yeah, they said, the poll also asked, should they be required to disclose that? And 35%, and again, another third said yes. 23% said yes, but only for deaths due to murder. So kind of like what we were talking about. If I was looking at a house and somebody said, this house has a history of being haunted, would you buy it?
Haunting is scarier to me than
murder.
The murder part.
But would you? So like I don't believe in it. Like I don't believe in haunted houses. I've stayed in one that was supposed to be a haunted house for a radio bit one time years ago, and like so I worked on this mainstream show. And it was just a weird night. So my partner and everybody else wanted to do a seance. I wanted nothing to do with that. So it's supposed to be this Civil War haunted house. They do a seance. I'm staying out of it. The house is just dark and weird. The news guy got drunk and walked through the house with an axe, yelling, "Come do your worst, God." You know, it was just, it was the weirdest group of people there. And it was just a disconcerting night. But I don't believe that ghosts sit in house. I don't even know if I believe in ghosts, but I do believe in demons and spirits and stuff. But anyway, I don't believe people die and then are like, I'm stuck in this house.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't think that's how the afterlife works.
All of that said, someone says, "Hey, here's this house. It's a $500,000 house. You can have it for $300,000, but it's rumored that it's haunted." I'm still passing on it.
No, because
I'm not taking it, man.
It's because we have enough movies. We have enough, media out there that shows us these things that you're like, I don't believe in it, but also I don't want to be proven wrong.
Exactly.
And so I will just pass and just go to the nice cul-de-sac that is extra not haunted.
I'll pay double for a non-haunted house.
If that's in your head,
Yeah.
you're going to self-fulfill prophecy.
You'll see all of it.
You're going to
Exactly.
see it.
You'll hear
100%.
things.
Well,
It's
but that's the thing. If they say haunted, to me that screams electrical problems and plumbing issues. You know,
Right.
there's probably something else that's going to create sounds that I will always attribute to haunting, and so I'm not going to check what that leak is.
I have seen, don't ever go look in the basement, whatever you do. I have seen videos of things that I can't explain that were like surveillance videos and super weird. There's one that Betty showed me because, good Lord, that girl watches the craziest stuff, and she lives alone. There's no way I would never watch anything.
I don't know how
she watches.
she's mentally sound.
I don't know.
In her situation, based on the things she watches more than anything else.
She showed me a couple things that freaked me out. So it's weird. I don't discount it, but I don't know that I fully believe in it. I did hear a guy, you guys know that Bible verse, the dead in Christ shall rise. Mm-hmm. I've always wondered about that verse. So the dead in Christ will rise, but then Jesus is like, today you'll be with me in paradise. I finally heard a preacher, ironically, on TikTok talking about this, and he goes, here's what I think. Because before my dad passed away, he asked me, he was like, so do you think I'll be, in heaven, soon when I die, right away? Ugh. And I'm like, but we had a good sense of humor. I'm like, I don't know, you're gonna have to tell me on this one. And so, but I'm like, I believe so, yeah. But then this guy said something that made sense to me. He goes, and I always when I'm not sure about something, I look at Jesus. Okay, well, what does he say, or what did he do? So this Jesus is on the cross. He's there with the thief, and the thief, is confessing, and he says, okay, today you'll be with me in paradise. So then Jesus basically dies, his body dies, soul separated from spirit, and he's with the Father. But then he resurrects and comes back, his body's gone now, and then he's coming back to people. And so this guy, his theory was that when you die, your spirit goes and it's in heaven with Jesus, all of that good stuff, and you are there. So the thief would have been there. But then his theory is that the verse about the dead in Christ shall rise that's when you're kind of reunited with your body. Mm-hmm. And then all of the other stuff happens, and after tribulation and the book of the Lamb's judgment and all that stuff. And then the new heaven and new earth. But I'm like, oh, that was the first time that actually kind of made sense to me, that verse. And I thought, oh, I could see that happening. I don't know.
I don't know.
Not in a hurry to find out.
Yeah, so much of what Revelation is so, or so much of what all that's all about just doesn't have any bearing on how we live this life. And do all this stuff. It's just the most unknowable content in the Bible. That's
why I don't get wigged out about it. I've had more people ask me, do you think we're living in the end times? And they're really passionate about it. I'm like, I don't care. If there's a tribulation tomorrow and I'm caught up in it and I'm hoping to get out of it, but I'm mid-trib or post-trib or whatever, I'm like, I don't know. And I don't know that I don't believe that I'm going to see Jesus come back before I die.
I don't think so.
I don't think we're going to see that for thousands of years. But then I could be 1 billion% wrong. But it doesn't matter. Like, your job is to love God where you're at and tell people about him and love people as yourself. Like, that's our job, and not to worry about the stuff, because he says no man knows the hour of the day. And so, but some people just get so wigged out about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get wigged out about something that I have no idea what it's even going to look like, sound like, be like, when it is,
Yeah, I think people.
But I'll worry about everything else, like my password.
Exactly. But like deciding, even from a biblical standpoint, to care, like there's such a clear instruction on Jesus's side of things about like what you should care about in this life, and it's like love God, love people. Like we aren't told to create conspiracy theories and to look and see, because we're just not going to know. But it's tough because he says like no man knows this, blah blah blah. But someday when Jesus does come back, some people are going to be like, yeah, I called it.
Yeah.
Because we've been calling it for 2,000.
Right. Yeah, somebody's going to hit it right.
Yeah, because someone will. But I just, that concept makes me laugh too, though.
All right, you got my birthday for me?
Okay, I do. This
or
one
birthdays
was
in general?
emailed, and so I've got 3
okay,
that
go
I'll
for
fly through. This is from Carter, new listener.
You'll fly through respectfully.
Exactly. I will say it. That did sound disrespectful.
It did, yeah.
Because these do matter.
Yeah.
So this is from Carter. His birthday was, and this is to himself, Carter. Yeah. I'm double checking that because Carter could be like a girl's name too, I feel like. But no, it looks like a guy.
Okay.
Birthday was on October 21st. So it was a little while ago, so we're catching up with that. Happy birthday, Carter. Okay, let me go over to the document now that I'm opening and not flying through whatsoever. This is from Barry. They are shouting out a birthday to Anna. My relationship to her is husband. Okay, so Barry is wishing his wife a happy birthday.
Okay. So Carter and
Anna
Barry's
is an
wife.
amazing wife and mother of 2 little ones. She displays kindness, gentleness, and love. And she has an amazing, she's an amazing cook. Oh, and she's an awesome veterinarian. I will say, I am more appreciative of veterinarians after the last week and a half. So happy birthday, Anna. And then this is from Dean, wishing a happy birthday to himself as well. Been listening for years. Currently taking classes at Grand Canyon University.
Oh, nice.
Getting his bachelor's degree in education. I have a cousin who goes there and says that it's an awesome campus.
Oh, that's where I got my master's.
Awesome. Oh, yeah. So
I have a cousin who teaches there.
Oh, no way.
Love
Really?
it. Maybe
Well,
they teach teaching?
Yeah, and then Betty Rock went to Colorado Christian University, so she went to CCU. I went to GCU, but I taught at CCU.
They're all CC.
Yeah.
They're all C.
There's going to be a
'cause it's
C in
Christian
there. Yeah, there's going to be a
University,
C in there. A C and a U in there somewhere.
Yeah.
It better. Read that one for me again. There was something I was thinking about.
Taking classes at Grand Canyon University, getting my bachelor's degree on education.
No, that was
The other one?
No, that was that one. That's the whole email.
Yeah.
There was something I thought of when you said that. Dadgummit, I can't. It's gone. It's gone forever. It's gone. I'm not getting it back today. It'd be another whole Aftercast of me sitting there twiddling my thumbs trying to figure it out. All right, that's going to do it for your Aftercast for today. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
And appreciate you coming down and seeing this craziness. And thanks for being a potty.
Growing up in poverty has never been easy for children, but with the added challenges of the pandemic, conflict, and natural disasters, families around the world are facing an unprecedented food crisis. Unfortunately, those who are already hungry are now even more desperate. But by sponsoring a child through compassion, you can help provide life-sustaining essentials such as food and clean water. And with your compassionate support, that child can not only survive, but also flourish. You can find out how and choose a child to sponsor when you click on the compassion banner at wayfm.com.